The sound of a coffee cup shattering against the floor echoed through the Tactical Operations Center. "I said go make coffee, not sit here pointing at maps," Colonel Carter Reynolds barked, his voice carrying across the war room at Forward Operating Base Viper. The clock on the wall read 0347 hours. On the satellite display overhead, 50 Navy SEALs were surrounded by more than 500 enemy combatants in Kandahar province. Lieutenant Willow Matthews, 28 years old, small-framed in an oversized uniform, shoulders hunched behind thick-rimmed glasses, stepped back and bowed her head in apology. Her hands trembled as she bent to pick up the broken ceramic pieces. Around her, 15 officers and intelligence analysts watched with a mixture of pity and mockery. "Fresh meat," Major Bradley Foster muttered, shaking his head. "Thinks she's playing a tactical video game or something." But in the 40 minutes these men had spent arguing about extraction options, none of them noticed she'd been quietly marking 7 points on the terrain map. None of them heard her whisper to Sergeant Hazel Bennett, "If they don't change direction in 6 minutes, 12 men will die." None of them saw her eyes, no longer trembling, when she stared at the coordinates on screen. The eyes of someone who had watched this kind of plan fail before. The eyes of someone who wouldn't let it happen again. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. Willow finished collecting the broken cup, her fingers automatically arranging the ceramic shards in order by size on a napkin. A habit she couldn't shake. Muscle memory from years of organizing equipment, ammunition, anything that needed precision. She folded the napkin with military corners, crisp and exact, the kind of fold that took thousands of repetitions to perfect. Sergeant Bennett noticed. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she said nothing. The war room pulsed with tension. 23 personnel cycled through the space. Radio operators hunched over encrypted channels, intelligence analysts updating threat assessments, medical staff on standby near the door. The main tactical display dominated the north wall, 15 feet wide, showing real-time satellite imagery of the engagement zone. Red hostile markers clustered like angry wasps around a single blue friendly icon. Shadow 2, 50 men, grid 428. "We need conventional extraction," Captain Ethan Crawford insisted, stabbing his finger at the map. "Route Alpha 7, straight line, maximum speed." "Too exposed," Major Foster countered. "We'd lose air superiority in that corridor." "Then what do you suggest?" Reynolds snapped. "We've got 50 of America's finest about to get overrun, and you're worried about air corridors?" Lieutenant Mason Brooks adjusted his communications headset. "Sir, I can coordinate with—" "I don't need coordination suggestions from a comms officer," Reynolds cut him off. "I need solutions." Willow stood in the corner near the coffee station, supposedly out of the way. But her eyes tracked every movement on the tactical display. She counted seconds between radio updates, calculated ammunition burn rates, measured terrain elevation differentials. Her mind processed the battlefield like she'd done it 1,000 times before, because she had. The radio crackled. "Viper Base, this is Shadow 2. We're down to 40% ammunition. Request immediate support. Over." The voice was strained, professional, but carrying that edge that came when death stopped being hypothetical. "Shadow 2, Viper Base. Stand by. Working your extract now. Out." Brooks released the transmission key and looked at Reynolds. "Sir, they need an answer." "I know what they need, Lieutenant." Willow's lips moved silently, counting. 38 seconds since last contact. Enemy advance rate suggested 3.2 minutes until optimal firing position. If the SEALs held current location, ammunition would last 7.6 minutes at defensive consumption rate. The canyon system to the northwest offered— "Matthews!" Reynolds' voice made her flinch. "Since you're just standing there, make yourself useful. Get coffee for everyone. 8 cups. Adults are working here." Heat flooded her cheeks. Hazel shot her a sympathetic look. Captain Iris Morgan, the base medical officer, opened her mouth to object, then thought better of it. "Yes, sir." Willow's voice barely carried across the room. She moved to the coffee station, hands steady despite the humiliation. As she measured grounds, she watched the tactical display in her peripheral vision. The enemy was repositioning, not random movement, coordinated, professional. They were setting up a kill box, and no one else saw it. She poured water into the commercial coffee maker, the kind that brewed 8 cups in 4 minutes. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency. Level the grounds, check the water temperature, start the cycle. While it brewed, she pulled paper napkins from the dispenser and began folding them. One by one, military corners, perfect creases. Sergeant Bennett drifted over, ostensibly to refill her water bottle. You okay? She whispered. Willow nodded without looking up. They're making a mistake. Which one? Route Alpha 7. There's a canyon system at grid 428. Perfect ambush terrain. Soviet-era maps show elevation changes that aren't on our current displays. Bennett's eyes widened slightly. How do you know about Soviet maps? The coffee maker beeped. Willow poured 8 cups with mechanical precision. I read a lot. She carried the tray of coffee into the war room. Reynolds snatched a cup without acknowledgement. Foster took one, grimaced at the heat. Crawford ignored her entirely, focused on his tablet. Lieutenant Brooks gave her a dismissive wave. As she set down the last cup, Willow paused. The tactical display showed Shadow 2's position relative to the terrain. Her mind overlaid the Soviet topographical data she'd studied 3 years ago during mission prep for a different operation. Different war. Same mountains. Sir, she said quietly, if I may. You may not, Reynolds cut her off. This is a tactical briefing for senior staff. But the terrain at 428... Lieutenant Matthews? Reynolds turned to face her fully. His face was red, veins prominent in his neck. Do you have tactical operations experience I'm not aware of? Silence fell across the room. 23 pairs of eyes turned toward them. No, sir, Willow said. Do you have forward combat deployment experience? Do you have any experience beyond pushing papers and making coffee? Each question was a hammer blow, designed to humiliate, designed to establish dominance. Willow's jaw tightened. No, sir. Then keep your mouth shut and let the professionals work. He turned back to the display. Conversation resumed. Willow retreated to her corner, cheeks burning, but her eyes never left the screen. 4 minutes later, the radio erupted. Viper Base, contact. We are taking fire from 3 directions at grid 428. I say again, contact at 428. Multiple casualties. Request immediate close air support. The war room exploded into chaos. Reynolds slammed his palm on the table. How did they get positioned there? Ambush point, Foster said grimly. They knew we'd come through that route. Willow's whisper was so quiet only Hazel heard it. I told you. General Arthur Blackwood descended from the elevated observation platform where he'd been watching. 68 years old, 36-year career, 4 stars on his collar. He said nothing, but his presence added weight to the already crushing pressure. Options, Reynolds demanded. Give me options now. We can vector Apache support from the south, Brooks suggested. Too slow, Crawford countered. By the time they reposition, then we go with fast movers, F-18s from the carrier. Danger close with friendlies in contact. We'd risk blue on blue. The argument spiraled. Willow watched the tactical display update in real time. Red markers multiplying, blue marker static, ammunition counter dropping. Her hands clenched. She'd seen this before. Different country, different team. Same fatal hesitation while men died. 8 Rangers. Their faces still haunted her dreams. Not again. If this story already has you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button right now, because what happens next will blow your mind. This isn't just about military tactics or combat heroics. This is about one woman who the entire room underestimated, and how she's about to prove that real strength doesn't come from rank or recognition. It comes from skill, sacrifice, and the courage to stand up when everyone else sits down. Subscribe and hit that notification bell, because you won't want to miss a single second of this. Sir, Willow's voice cut through the argument. Stronger now, clearer. Reynolds didn't even turn around. Matthews, I swear, they're going to flank from the northwest. Grid 419. The canyon has a concealed approach the Soviets used during their occupation. How could you possibly... Because that's what I would do. She stepped forward, forgetting protocol, forgetting her place. The terrain funnels our forces into 3 possible routes. Alpha 7 was the obvious choice, which is why they ambushed it. But if we can redirect Shadow 2 to the Northwest Canyon system, we can... Enough, Reynolds roared. This is a war room, not a classroom. You don't get to play tactical officer because you read some Wikipedia articles. I didn't read Wikipedia, sir. I studied Soviet military operational maps from the 1980s. The canyon system at 419 connects to a cave network that... A cave network, Foster's voice dripped with sarcasm. Let me guess, you also studied spelunking? Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Even some of the junior analysts smirked. Captain Morgan stepped forward. Colonel, perhaps we should at least look at... Doctor, stay in your lane, Reynolds snapped. Matthews, do you have something productive to contribute? Or are you going to keep wasting our time with fantasy scenarios? Willow met his eyes. For the first time since entering the war room, she didn't look away. I have a plan that will get all 50 men out alive, but you need to let me coordinate directly with... Coordinate? Brooks laughed. You think you can coordinate tactical operations? What's your experience, Lieutenant? What operations have you run? The question hung in the air. Willow's mouth opened, closed. The words were right there. 47 missions, 0 friendly casualties, Operation Neptune's Spear, the name that would change everything. But she'd worked so hard to disappear, to become nobody, to forget the weight of command and the faces of the 8 Rangers whose deaths she couldn't prevent. None, sir, she finally said. Exactly. Reynolds turned back to the tactical display. Now, unless anyone with actual experience has suggestions, I'm going with conventional extraction. Foster, coordinate with the Apache unit. Brooks, get me a comm line to Shadow 2 Actual. We're pulling them out Route Beta 3. Willow's hands clenched so hard her nails cut crescents in her palms. Route Beta 3 was even worse than Alpha 7. The enemy would predict that fallback. They'd have time to reposition. More men would die. She couldn't watch it happen again. Sir, respectfully, one more word and you're confined to quarters, Reynolds said without turning around. Is that clear, Lieutenant? Willow's jaw worked. Her eyes burned, but she stepped back. Yes, sir. Sergeant Bennett caught her arm as she retreated. He's wrong, she whispered. You know he's wrong. Doesn't matter what I know. It should. On the tactical display, the blue marker representing Shadow 2 flickered. Ammunition counter dropped below 30%. The radio reported 2 more wounded, and Willow Matthews stood in the corner, watching, as history prepared to repeat itself. Sergeant First Class Connor Walsh entered the war room carrying an armload of equipment. 41 years old, barrel-chested, with the kind of confidence that came from 2 decades of service. He dumped the gear on a side table and surveyed the organized chaos. Coffee ready? He asked, spotting Willow. Or did someone finally give the new girl a real job? More laughter, less nervous now, building momentum. Walsh, focus, Foster snapped, but there was no real heat in it. Just saying, sir. We're in a crisis situation, and we've got a logistics clerk hovering around tactical planning. Walsh grabbed a cup of coffee, took a long drink. No offense, sweetie, but maybe you could help more by organizing supply manifests or something. Willow said nothing. Her eyes remained on the tactical display. Walsh noticed. What, you got an opinion on tactical operations now? You want to tell us how to run this? Leave her alone, Hazel muttered. I'm just curious. Walsh set down his coffee and crossed his arms. Matthews, you've been staring at that screen like you understand what you're seeing. So, enlighten us. What would you do? It was a trap, designed to humiliate, to put the uppity female lieutenant in her place. Reynolds should have shut it down, but he was too focused on his failing plan. Willow's voice was quiet. I'd split their forces. Split their forces, Walsh repeated. Brilliant. And how exactly would you do that? Psychological warfare, fake radio chatter and Pashto. Make them think we're bringing in a full battalion from the south. They'd have to divide their forces to cover multiple approach vectors. Walsh blinked. That was actually tactical. And then, he prompted, less mocking now, while they're repositioned, guide Shadow 2 through the Northwest Canyon system. The cave network provides concealment. Soviet maps show an exit point at grid 409 that isn't on our current displays. Terrain there is too rough for vehicle pursuit, but perfect for foot movement. The room had gone quiet. People were listening. And extraction? Walsh asked. Set up a landing zone at 409. It's elevated, good sight lines, defensible. Coordinate close air support to suppress enemy forces while Shadow 2 moves through the canyon. Time it right, and we can funnel pursuing forces into a kill box of our choosing instead of theirs. Silence. Foster stared at her. Where did you learn to think like that? I read a lot, sir. That's not reading, that's operational planning. Willow's face remained neutral. Just seems logical, sir. Walsh scratched his jaw. Huh. Maybe the clerk's got a brain after all. Or maybe she got lucky with a guess, Reynolds said coldly. He'd been listening. Throwing out tactical terms doesn't make you qualified, Matthews. This is the real world, not some simulation. Yes, sir. Soviet maps, psychological warfare, radio chatter and Pashto. Reynolds smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You expect me to believe you just happened to think of all that? I expect you to save 50 men, sir. The room froze. You didn't challenge a colonel. Not like that. Not as a junior lieutenant. Reynolds approached her slowly, deliberately. He stopped 3 feet away, using his 6-foot height to loom over her 5'4" frame. You've got backbone, I'll give you that. But backbone without experience gets people killed. So does pride, sir. Gasps. Someone actually gasped. Reynolds' face went purple. You want to test me, Lieutenant? You want to prove you're not just some clerk playing soldier? Fine. Walsh, bring me that M240. The radio crackled with another urgent update, but Reynolds ignored it. He was focused entirely on Willow now, on putting her in her place. Walsh retrieved the M240 machine gun from the equipment table. 27 pounds of weapon system, belt-fed, gas-operated. He set it on the briefing table between them. You talk a good game about tactics, Reynolds said, but tactics require understanding weapon systems, understanding how they function under stress, understanding their capabilities and limitations. He gestured at the M240. This is basic infantry equipment. Every soldier should be able to field strip one. Can you? The challenge was clear. Prove your competence or shut up forever. Willow looked at the weapon. Her hands didn't move. That's what I thought, Reynolds said. All talk, no substance. I can do it, sir. Then do it. You've got 90 seconds. That's the standard for infantry qualification. Master Sergeant Raymond Hayes, the base armory chief, stood up from his workstation. 44 years old, 22 years of service, he knew weapon systems better than most people knew their own names. Colonel, with respect, that's not a fair test for... She said she can do it, Reynolds interrupted. Let's see it. The war room had forgotten about the 50 dying men. This had become personal. This was about putting an arrogant female lieutenant in her place. Willow approached the table. 23 people watched. General Blackwood watched from his elevated position. Expression unreadable. She didn't rush, didn't hesitate. Her hands moved to the weapon with the kind of casual familiarity that came from thousands of repetitions. Feed tray assembly, driving spring rod, bolt assembly, buffer assembly, each component separated with smooth, efficient movements. No wasted motion, no checking for the next step, just muscle memory operating at peak efficiency. 30 seconds. Hayes' eyes widened. That's very good technique. She reassembled with the same smooth precision, each piece flowing into place. Not the fumbling of someone who had watched a training video, the confidence of someone who'd done this in the dark, under fire, with adrenaline screaming through their system. 42 seconds total. The clicking sound of the last component seating echoed through the silent war room. Willow stepped back. Clear, sir. Walsh stared. Holy cow. Hayes approached the weapon, inspected it. Perfect assembly. No mistakes, no force, no damage. Colonel, I've seen infantry soldiers take 2 minutes on this. That was professional armorer speed. Lucky, Foster said, but his voice lacked conviction. She probably practiced before coming on shift. With a weapon she had no reason to think she'd need. Hayes shook his head. Sir, that wasn't luck. That was trained expertise. Reynolds' jaw clenched. Fine. She can field strip a weapon. That proves nothing. Walsh, test her on technical specs. Walsh looked uncertain now. The mockery had drained from his face. Sir, maybe we should focus on... Test her, Walsh sighed. Matthews, what's the effective range of an M2 Browning 50 caliber? 1,800 meters effective, 6,800 maximum. Cyclic rate? 450 to 550 rounds per minute. When was it first introduced? Willow paused. The ghost of a smile touched her lips. 1933, designed by John Moses Browning. Still in service 92 years later, because nobody's managed to build anything better. Used in every American conflict since World War II. Mounted on vehicles, aircraft, watercraft, and fixed positions. I've personally... She stopped abruptly. You've personally what? Reynolds leaned in. I've personally read about its deployment history, sir. That's not what you were going to say. Silence. Willow's face had gone carefully blank. Crawford, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Matthews, what's your background? Your file says logistics analyst at Fort Bragg from 2019 to 2023. Is that accurate? Yes, sir. And before that? Various postings, sir. Various postings, Crawford repeated. He pulled up something on his tablet. Your file is surprisingly thin for someone with your apparent skill set. I push papers, sir. Not much to document. The radio erupted again. Viper Base, this is Shadow 2. We are now at 4 wounded, 2 critical. We need immediate medevac coordination. What is your status on extraction? Over. The war room snapped back to reality. Men were dying. This wasn't about ego. This was about mission success. Reynolds grabbed the radio. Shadow 2, Viper Base. Stand by for extraction route. Out. He turned to Foster. Get me that Apache coordination. Route Beta 3, maximum speed. Sir, Willow said, that route puts them directly into... I don't recall asking for your input, Lieutenant. But sir, the terrain analysis shows... Enough! Reynolds' shout silenced her. You've proven you can disassemble a weapon. Congratulations. That doesn't make you qualified to coordinate tactical operations. Now stand down, or I will have you removed from this TOC. Willow's hands trembled, not from fear, from rage, from frustration, from the absolute certainty that she was watching history repeat itself. 8 Rangers, their names carved into her memory. Not again. She wouldn't let it happen again. But what could she do? She was nobody, just a clerk who'd gotten too confident, just a woman who'd stepped out of line, just Ghost, the most successful tactical coordinator in JSOC history, forced to watch amateurs make fatal mistakes. The radio systems Willow was monitoring weren't your standard military equipment. Advanced encrypted tactical communication devices are revolutionizing modern warfare, allowing real-time coordination across multiple units with zero lag and military-grade security. These systems can handle satellite feeds, drone footage, and voice comms simultaneously, giving tactical coordinators the split-second advantage that saves lives. In high-stakes operations, having the right technology isn't just helpful, it's the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. Reynolds coordinated with Major Foster, issuing orders for Route Beta 3 extraction. Brooks established comm lines. Crawford updated threat assessments. The machinery of military response ground forward. Willow stood in her corner, watching the tactical display, calculating, planning, preparing for the inevitable, because she knew what they didn't. She knew exactly how this would unfold. She'd run this scenario 17 times in training, executed it 4 times in combat. Route Beta 3 had a 92% failure rate under current conditions. Sergeant Bennett moved closer. You're not going to just stand there, are you? What choice do I have? You could tell them the truth. What truth? Who you really are. Willow's eyes snapped to her. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you do. Hazel's voice was barely a whisper. I've been watching you for 3 weeks. The way you stand, the way you fold things, the way you automatically calculate firing angles when you look at terrain. You're not a logistics clerk. That's my job title. That's your cover. They stared at each other, Willow's carefully constructed anonymity cracking under the weight of the moment. It doesn't matter who I was, Willow finally said. It matters who I am now. And right now, I'm nobody. Then 50 men die because you chose to be nobody. The words hit like a physical blow, because they were true, because Willow had made a choice 3 years ago to disappear, to stop carrying the weight of command, to stop making decisions that got people killed. But watching those red markers close in on the blue marker, watching the ammunition counter drop, watching the casualty count rise, that was a different kind of weight. Viper Base, this is Hawk 1. A new voice on the radio. Female, calm despite the chaos. Lieutenant Commander Audrey Pierce, Apache pilot. We are inbound to provide close air support. Current ETA 12 minutes. Request updated threat assessment and rules of engagement. Over. Brooks relayed the tactical situation. Reynolds provided authorization for weapons release. The plan moved forward. Willow closed her eyes. 12 minutes. Shadow 2 had maybe 6 minutes of defensible ammunition. The enemy would overrun their position long before air support arrived. Route Beta 3 would take them directly into prepared ambush positions. It was tactical suicide dressed up as bold action. She'd seen this before. Different mountains, different team, same fatal combination of pride and incompetence. Staff Sergeant Michael Chen, Sergeant First Class Maria Rodriguez, Corporal James Wilson, Private First Class David Taylor, Specialist Jennifer Martinez, Sergeant Thomas Anderson, Corporal Robert Jackson, Private First Class Amanda Foster. 8 names. 8 Rangers who died because Pentagon brass overruled her extraction plan. 8 people who trusted the system to make the right call. They'd been wrong to trust. Would Shadow 2 make the same mistake? Warrant Officer Dylan Sterling moved through the war room with the practiced efficiency of someone who had spent 20 years in intelligence work. 46 years old, quiet, observant. He paused near Willow's position, ostensibly checking a data feed on a nearby terminal. "That field strip time was impressive," he said casually. "Thank you. 42 seconds. That's competition-level speed. I've only seen that kind of performance from people who've worked with weapons under extreme stress." Willow didn't respond. "I knew someone once," Dylan continued, his voice barely audible beneath the war room chaos. "Back in 2011, brilliant tactical coordinator, coordinated one of the most successful operations in modern military history. She had this thing she did, folded everything with perfect military corners, even napkins, drove everyone crazy." Willow's breathing stopped. "Never met her directly," Dylan went on. "Just worked intelligence support. But I remember the briefings, the precision, the absolute confidence that everything would work exactly as planned. And it did. 0 casualties, perfect execution. They called her Ghost because she saw things no one else could see and planned operations no one else would dare attempt." He glanced at Willow. "Heard she retired young. Some kind of tragedy, classified. Nobody talks about it." "Why are you telling me this?" Willow whispered. "Because that canyon trajectory you mentioned? The psychological warfare? The Soviet maps?" Dylan smiled slightly. "That's ghost thinking, and there's only one ghost." Before Willow could respond, the tactical display lit up with new alerts, the worst-case scenario unfolding in real time. "Contact! Contact!" the radio screamed. "We are taking fire from multiple positions. Route Beta 3 is compromised. They were waiting for us. We have 6 wounded now, 3 critical, requesting immediate..." The transmission cut to static. "Shadow 2, report." Brooks keyed the mic frantically. "Shadow 2, report your status." Static. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 8 seconds. Then, Viper Base, "We're pinned, taking casualties. They knew we were coming." The voice was ragged, desperate. Reynolds stared at the tactical display like it had betrayed him. Red markers swarmed. The blue marker flickered. "How?" Foster breathed. "How did they predict Beta 3? "Because it was the obvious fallback," Crawford said. "Once Alpha 7 was compromised, Beta 3 was the only conventional alternative. So, what do we do now?" No one had an answer. The room descended into chaos again. Shouting, accusations, desperate suggestions that made no tactical sense. And still, the blue marker flickered. Still, men died. Willow's fingernails cut deeper into her palms. Blood welled in tiny crescents. She couldn't do this. Couldn't watch it happen again. Couldn't carry 8 more names. 50 more names. Can you believe what just happened? Drop a comment if you saw that coming. Because the officers in that room definitely didn't. But here's the thing. We're only halfway through this story. What's about to be revealed will change everything. Keep watching. The best part is still ahead. She stepped forward, not thinking, not calculating, just moving on pure instinct and accumulated rage. "Sir." Reynolds didn't acknowledge her. "Sir." Louder now. He spun on her. "What?" "I can get them out. And Matthews, not now. All 50 men. I can extract them safely. But I need tactical command authority." Laughter. Actual laughter from several officers. "You?" Foster said. "You want command authority? Based on what qualification? Based on the fact that your plans keep failing and men keep dying." The laughter died. Reynolds closed the distance between them. "You have a lot of nerve, Lieutenant. A lot of nerve for someone who's contributed nothing but coffee and arrogant commentary." "Then prove me wrong," Willow said. Her voice had changed. Stronger, clearer, command voice bleeding through despite her best efforts. "Give me 10 minutes. If my plan doesn't work, remove me from service. Court-martial me, whatever you want. But give me a chance to save them." "Why would I trust you?" "Because you don't have any other options." It was true. The room knew it. Shadow 2 knew it. Even Reynolds knew it. But pride was a powerful thing. "No," he said flatly. "You're dismissed, Lieutenant. Confined to quarters pending review for insubordination." "Sir." He grabbed her left arm, just above the elbow, intending to escort her physically from the war room. His grip was iron, meant to intimidate, meant to establish dominance. The sleeve of her oversized uniform, already stretched from years of wear, caught on his watch. It tore. The sound of ripping fabric was surprisingly loud in the momentary lull of conversation. Her left forearm, from elbow to wrist, suddenly exposed to the fluorescent lights of the war room. And there, in stark black ink against pale skin, was a tattoo. Not some tribal design or motivational quote, not a unit patch or girlfriend's name. 3 lines of text, military, precise, absolutely unmistakable. JSOC, Operation Neptune Spear, 02 May 2011. Below it, a trident symbol, the SEAL trident, but modified, incorporating elements that designated something else, something classified. And next to it, a unit designation that made no sense to most of the room, TF-714. And around the edges, visible now in the harsh light, scar tissue, old burns, the kind that came from close quarters combat, from fire and explosions and things that happened in places where American forces officially never operated. The war room went absolutely silent. You could have heard a pin drop on carpet. Reynolds stared at the tattoo. His hand fell away from her arm like he'd been burned. Private Aiden Cole, the young radio operator, whispered, "Oh my God." Major Foster's face had gone pale. That's not." General Blackwood stood from his elevated position. For the first time all night, he moved, descended the stairs slowly, deliberately, his eyes locked on the tattoo. Captain Crawford frantically typed on his tablet, pulling up classified databases, entering search terms with shaking fingers. Sergeant Bennett breathed out, "Holy cow." Dylan Sterling just smiled, that knowing, quiet smile of someone whose suspicions had been confirmed. And Lieutenant Mason Brooks, voice barely above a whisper, "Neptune Spear was the Bin Laden raid." Everyone knew that. Operation Neptune Spear, May 2nd, 2011. The operation that killed the world's most wanted terrorist. The operation that ended a decade-long manhunt. The operation that required perfect coordination between Navy SEALs, CIA intelligence, Army aviation assets, and a tactical coordinator who had to plan for 18 different contingency scenarios. Task Force 714, Hazel whispered, reading the designation. That's a ghost unit. Officially doesn't exist. Handles the most classified operations in JSOC. Crawford's tablet beeped. His eyes went wide as he read the screen. "Colonel, there's a file here." "Read it," Reynolds said. His voice had gone hoarse. "It's heavily redacted, but..." Crawford swallowed hard. "Matthews, Willow, Colonel, retired, specialty, Joint Operations Coordination, Security Clearance, TSSCI, Notable Operations, Operation Neptune Spear, Coordination Lead, age at time of Neptune Spear, 23, total high-value target missions coordinated, 47, friendly casualties under direct tactical command, 0, silence, 47 missions, 0 casualties, the best record in JSOC history. It says she retired at 26, Crawford continued, voice shaking. Reason for retirement is classified, but there's a note about an incident. 8 Rangers, something about overruled tactical planning and catastrophic outcome. Willow's face remained impassive, but her eyes held pain. Deep, old, never fully healed. General Blackwood reached them. He stopped 3 feet away. Then, in a movement that stunned everyone present, he came to attention. Not the casual stance of officers in a work environment. Full military attention. Shoulders back, chest out, arms at sides. And then he saluted. A formal, crisp, perfect salute to a junior lieutenant. "Colonel Matthews," he said, "it's been a long time." The room erupted, not in sound, but in movement. 23 people suddenly scrambling for phones, tablets, trying to verify what they were seeing, trying to understand how this small, quiet woman who'd been making coffee 15 minutes ago was actually a legendary tactical coordinator who'd coordinated the most significant military operation of the 21st century. Willow stood frozen, the mask she'd worn for 3 years shattered, the anonymity she'd fought so hard to maintain, destroyed. Everyone could see her now, really see her, and she hated it. Reynolds stammered, "Colonel, I didn't know. You thought I was nobody," Willow finished quietly. "That was the point." "Why?" Foster breathed. "Why work as a clerk? Why hide your identity?" For service members like these SEALs trapped in hostile territory, comprehensive life insurance and financial planning aren't optional, they're essential. Specialized military financial services offer coverage that standard policies don't, including combat zone protection, survivor benefits, and investment portfolios designed for deployment cycles. These financial safety nets ensure that whether you're coordinating operations from a TOC or executing missions on the ground, your family's future is secure no matter what happens in the field. The words hung in the air, but no one was really processing them. The room remained fixated on Willow, on her tattoo, on the impossible revelation. Because, Willow said softly, I couldn't watch people die anymore. Another radio transmission shattered the moment. Viper Base, this is Shadow 1 Actual. I've been monitoring tactical channel. My brother is with Shadow 2. He's down there. Please, whatever you're planning, please make it work. The voice cracked, raw emotion breaking through military discipline. Willow's face changed, color drained, her hands clenched into fists. Did he say brother? Hazel whispered. Crawford checked something on his tablet. Shadow 2's roster shows, oh no, Captain Blake Matthews, SEAL Team 6, Shadow 2's second in command. Blake, Willow breathed. Her brother. Her older brother, who had joined the Navy at 18, made SEAL at 22, spent his entire adult life in special operations, who'd inspired her to join the military, who'd been on deployment during Neptune's Spear and never knew his little sister coordinated the mission, who thought she was safely pushing papers at Fort Bragg, personal stakes, hidden throughout, now exposed like the tattoo on her arm. Reynolds looked at her, really looked at her, seeing not an incompetent clerk, but a tactical genius driven by personal desperation. Colonel Matthews, he said formally, I apologize for my behavior. I was wrong, completely wrong. He paused. I'm transferring tactical command authority to you, effective immediately. What do you need? Willow's eyes refocused, sharpened, the grief and pain locked away behind professional competence. I need everyone to shut up and follow orders, she said. Command voice at full force now, not the hesitant whisper of Lieutenant Matthews, the absolute authority of Colonel Ghost Matthews, who'd never lost a single soldier under her command. Aiden, get me encrypted channel to Hawk 1. Dylan, pull up Soviet topographical maps, grid 39 through 45. Hayes, I need weapon specifications for enemy likely positions. Crawford, real-time satellite feed focused on canyon approach vectors. Foster, coordinate with signals intelligence for Pashto language capability. Brooks, establish direct comm line to Shadow 2. Actual and Shadow 1 Actual. I want both brothers on the same channel. The room exploded into motion. Not chaos now, coordinated action, everyone moving with purpose. Willow approached the tactical display, hands flying across the interface, overlaying Soviet maps onto current satellite imagery, marking routes, calculating timing, building a three-dimensional battlefield picture that existed only in her mind until now. Hawk 1, this is Viper Actual. How copy? She'd taken Reynolds' call sign. Command authority transferred. Viper Actual, Hawk 1, copy 5x5. What's the situation? Lieutenant Commander Pierce's voice was professionally calm, but she could hear the tension. Change of plan. I'm sending new approach vectors to your navigation computer. Do not, I repeat, do not approach from bearing 090 as previously directed. Enemy has anti-air positions pre-staged. You'll be shot down. Copy, Viper. Standing by for new approach vectors. Sending now, Hawk 1. I need you to execute what I'm calling Operation Misdirection. You're going to fake a retreat. Make it look good. Transponders hot, maximum engine noise, pulling back bearing 090. Make them think they scared you off. A pause. That's unorthodox. That's psychological warfare. They'll reposition to capitalize on your apparent retreat, splits their forces, opens the canyon approach for Shadow 2 extraction. Understood, Viper. Executing misdirection on your mark. Willow pulled up another communication channel. Shadow 2, this is Viper Actual. Do you copy? The response was labored. Background gunfire audible. Viper, Shadow 2, copy. Who is this? Your new tactical coordinator. I'm getting you out. All 50 of you. But you need to trust me and follow instructions exactly. Who? Blake. It's Willow. Silence on the channel. Longer than was safe during active combat. Then, Little Owl, the childhood nickname. his voice breaking with emotion. "What are you doing on tactical command?" "Saving your life?" Again, she allowed herself a tiny smile. "Remember when you fell through the ice at Mirror Lake and I pulled you out? Consider this version 2.0. Willow, you're a logistics. I'm the person who coordinated Neptune's spear. Now stop wasting time and listen. In 60 seconds, you're going to hear Apache gunships retreating. Ignore them. That's a feint. I need you to move your entire team northwest, grid 412. There's a cave entrance hidden by overhang, Soviet era, never marked on modern maps. Move fast, move quiet, and trust that I've already cleared the route. Northwest is away from extract. Northwest is your only chance. The enemy has every conventional route covered. This is your one opportunity. Take it." Another pause. Then, "Copy, Viper. Moving on your mark." Okay, pause for just a second. If you're not subscribed yet, now's the time, because what's coming next is the moment everyone's been waiting for. This is where everything clicks into place. Don't scroll away. You've come this far. Stay with me. Willow coordinated 6 simultaneous operations with the practiced ease of someone who'd done it 100 times before. She directed Sergeant Kai Sullivan to begin broadcasting fake radio chatter in Pashto, creating the illusion of a battalion-strength force approaching from the south. She coordinated with Dylan to position surveillance drones for real-time canyon monitoring. She had Hayes calculate optimal firing solutions for enemy positions based on thermal imaging. And she did it all while simultaneously tracking ammunition levels, casualty status, weather patterns, enemy movement vectors, friendly force positions, and the 17 contingency plans running parallel in her mind. This was what she'd been born to do. This was what she'd walked away from 3 years ago when the weight became too heavy. And now, with 50 lives hanging in the balance, with her brother's life hanging in the balance, she couldn't walk away anymore. The tactical display showed enemy forces beginning to reposition. They'd bought the Pashto broadcasts. Heavy weapons teams moving south to intercept the Phantom Battalion. Light infantry maintaining pressure on Shadow 2's current position, but with reduced numbers. Hawk 1, execute misdirection, now. Copy, Viper, executing. On the display, 2 Apache helicopters suddenly pulled back, engine noise audible even on the satellite audio feed. Retreating, running. Enemy forces celebrated. Willow could see it in their movement patterns. Overconfidence. The belief that they'd won. That's when she sprang the trap. Shadow 2, move now. Northwest. Double time. I need you in that cave system in 4 minutes. Moving. Hawk 1, complete your arc and come around bearing 270. You'll have clean approach vectors to enemy positions. They're all looking south. Hit them hard. With pleasure, Viper. Willow watched the pieces move, like chess played at lethal speed, every decision carrying weight, every calculation meaning life or death. But this time, she wasn't working against incompetent commanders. This time, she had control. This time, she could execute the plan perfectly. This time, no one would die. Shadow 2, report position. Approaching grid 412. We've got, holy cow, Willow, there's actually a cave here. Soviet mountain warfare doctrine emphasized concealed fallback positions. This one has been here since 1984. Move through, maintain light discipline, and follow the main tunnel northwest. It exits at 409, 2.3 kilometers, rough terrain but manageable. Copy, moving through. Hawk 1, targets designated. You are cleared hot. The Apache gunships appeared on satellite feed, vectoring in from an angle the enemy never anticipated. Their 30mm chain guns opened up. Precision, controlled, devastating. Enemy positions evaporated. Shadow 2, sit rep. We're in the tunnel. Dark, tight, but navigable. Wounded or managing. You're sure this leads to extraction? Positive. Soviet engineers built 13 of these systems throughout this mountain range. I've memorized all of them. Why? Because I plan for everything, Blake. You know this. A sound that might have been a laugh, might have been a sob. Yeah, I know. The minutes crawled past. Shadow 2 moving through darkness. Hawk 1 suppressing enemy forces. Enemy command structure trying to reorganize, trying to understand what happened to their perfect ambush. Willow orchestrated it all. Every piece, every movement. The symphony of tactical operations conducted by someone who understood the music better than anyone alive. And then, Viper Shadow 2, we're at the tunnel exit, grid 409, we need immediate extraction. Copy Shadow 2, extraction birds are inbound, ETA 90 seconds. Hawk 1, establish air superiority over LZ, nothing gets through. Copy Viper, we own the sky. The extraction helicopters, two MH-60 Blackhawks that Willow had pre-positioned based on her predicted timeline, swooped into the landing zone. 50 SEALs, 12 wounded, all climbing aboard. Efficient, professional, alive. All alive. Shadow 2, confirm all personnel aboard. Viper, Shadow 2, all 50 souls accounted for. 12 wounded but stable. No KIA. Repeat, no killed in action. How did you... Blake's voice trailed off, because he knew how. Because his little sister, the logistics clerk, was actually the most successful tactical coordinator in modern military history. Extraction birds are away, Brooks reported. Clear of hostile territory, en route to base. The war room erupted in cheers, real ones this time, relief and jubilation, and the incredible high that came from snatching victory from certain defeat. Willow sagged against the tactical display table, adrenaline draining away, leaving exhaustion and old pain. But they were alive, all 50, including Blake, including her brother. General Blackwood approached her quietly. That was exceptional work, Colonel. Thank you, sir. I have a question, though. Sir? Why didn't you just tell them from the beginning? Why endure the mockery, the dismissal? You could have revealed your identity at any time. Willow looked at the tactical display, at the markers showing friendly forces safely extracted. Because, she said quietly, I didn't want to be Ghost anymore. I wanted to be nobody. Someone who didn't carry responsibility for life and death. Someone who could make coffee and file reports and sleep through the night without dreaming about 8 Rangers whose deaths I couldn't prevent. What changed? 50 more people were about to die. 50 more names I'd have to carry. She met his eyes. I can handle being Ghost. What I can't handle is watching people die when I know I could have saved them. Blackwood nodded slowly. For what it's worth, Colonel, those 8 Rangers, that wasn't your fault. Pentagon brass overruled your tactical assessment. That's on them, not you. I was the coordinator. They trusted me to keep them safe. I failed. You gave them the best plan. Politicians killed them, not you. Willow didn't respond, because blame didn't matter. Dead was dead, and she still saw their faces every time she closed her eyes. Reynolds approached, looking like he'd aged 10 years in the last hour. Colonel Matthews, I owe you an apology beyond words. I was arrogant, dismissive, and frankly dangerous. I nearly got 50 men killed because I refused to listen. Yes, sir, you did. He flinched at her bluntness. I'd like to submit my resignation, effective immediately. I don't think that's necessary, Colonel. With respect, ma'am, I do. I'm not fit for command if I let ego override tactical reality. Willow considered this. Then learn from it. Teach others. Make sure the next generation of officers doesn't repeat your mistakes. That's worth more than resignation. Reynolds nodded slowly. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Major Foster stepped forward. Colonel, I'd also like to apologize. I was part of the problem. I questioned your expertise based on prejudice, on assumptions. That's inexcusable. Apology accepted, Major. One by one, the officers who had mocked her, who'd dismissed her, who'd treated her like an incompetent child, they all approached, all apologized, some sincerely, some grudgingly, but all recognizing that they had been catastrophically wrong. Sergeant Bennett, who had believed from the start, just smiled. Told you, she whispered. You did. So, what now? You're going to take command, go back to JSOC? They'd probably give you anything you asked for after tonight. Willow looked around the war room, at the tactical displays, at the communications systems, at the tools of war that she understood better than anyone, and she felt the weight settle back onto her shoulders, the burden of command, the responsibility for lives. She'd thought she could escape it, thought she could hide from it, thought 3 years of being nobody would heal the wounds. But some wounds never healed, some responsibilities never ended, some ghosts never truly disappeared. I don't know, she said honestly. I just don't know. The extraction birds touched down at FUB Viper 20 minutes later. 50 SEALs disembarked, exhausted, wounded, but alive. Medical teams swarmed the injured, Debriefing officers took initial reports. The machinery of post-mission operations ground into motion. And Blake Matthews, 34 years old, SEAL Team 6, Willow's older brother, searched the crowd until he found her. They embraced without words. Two siblings who had chosen the same path, taken different roads, and ended up saving each other's lives in the mountains of Afghanistan. "Little owl," he whispered, "you coordinated Neptune's spear?" "Yeah." "At 23? "Yeah." "And I never knew?" "It was classified. You were deployed. By the time you got back, I'd already moved on to other operations." He pulled back, looked at her. "You retired. You walked away. Why?" The question she'd avoided for 3 years, the question she couldn't answer even to herself. "Because I got 8 Rangers killed. That wasn't your fault. Everyone keeps saying that. Because it's true. They're still dead, Blake." He had no response to that, because it was true too. They stood together, brother and sister, both carrying scars that couldn't be seen, both warriors who understood the weight of decisions, both trying to figure out how to live with the consequences of command. "What happens now?" Blake finally asked. Willow's secure phone vibrated in her pocket. She'd turned it off months ago, had it locked away, had tried to sever all connections to her old life, but someone had reactivated it, someone with access to the most classified communication systems in the military. She pulled it out, looked at the screen. Encrypted message, authorization level, TS/SCI sender, unknown. Her thumb hovered over the unlock button. Blake saw her hesitation. "You don't have to answer that. I know. You can stay nobody. You can go back to being a clerk. You've earned that right." "I know." But even as she said it, she unlocked the phone, read the message, and everything changed again. The message on the encrypted phone was brief. 3 lines that carried the weight of classified operations. Ghost, situation Kabul, bigger than Neptune, Mole and JSOC selling classified tactical data. Possible Neptune Spear team member, need you operational within 72 hours. Blake read over her shoulder. His face went pale. A mole from Neptune Spear? That's impossible. Everyone on that team was vetted at the highest levels. "Everyone gets vetted," Willow said quietly. "Doesn't mean everyone stays loyal. You're not seriously considering this?" She looked at him, her older brother who had spent 15 years in special operations, who'd seen things that would break most people, who understood, better than almost anyone, what this kind of betrayal meant. 50 people tried to kill you tonight," she said. "How many of them do you think had intelligence that shouldn't have been accessible? How many knew exactly where Shadow 2 would be? How many had tactical data that let them set perfect ambush positions?" Blake's jaw clenched. "You think the mole provided intel for tonight's operation? I think someone's been selling secrets for a while, and tonight was just another transaction." She looked back at the phone. "If there's a mole in JSOC, if they were on the Neptune Spear team, then I'm probably one of 12 people who can identify them. I know everyone who had access to that operational planning. I know their patterns, their tells, their capabilities. You also know that hunting a traitor in your own ranks is the most dangerous mission there is." "Yeah," she pocketed the phone. "I know." General Blackwood appeared at her elbow. He'd been watching from a discreet distance, giving the siblings their moment. "Colonel Matthews, I couldn't help but notice you received a secure communication. Is there something I should be aware of?" Willow considered lying, considered brushing it off. But Blackwood had given her command authority when it mattered, had trusted her when no one else would. He'd earned honesty. "Possible security breach at JSOC level, sir. They're requesting my return to operational status." Blackwood's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. "I see. And your response?" "I haven't given one yet, sir." "But you will." It wasn't a question. Because Blackwood, like Blake, understood who Willow really was. Understood that people like her couldn't walk away when brothers and sisters in arms were at risk. Couldn't hide when the mission required their specific expertise. "Probably," she admitted. "For what it's worth, Colonel, the military is better with you in it than out of it. Tonight proved that beyond question." He paused. "But I also understand the cost of command, the weight of decisions. If you choose to stay retired, no one would blame you." "I'd blame me, sir." "Yes," Blackwood agreed. "You would." He left them then, moving to coordinate post-mission debriefing protocols, leaving Willow and Blake standing in the aftermath of chaos, both trying to process what came next. "You're going to say yes," Blake said. to the Kabul mission. I haven't decided. Yes, you have. You decided the moment you read that message. You just haven't admitted it to yourself yet. He was right. Of course he was right. Because despite 3 years of hiding, despite the trauma of 8 Rangers lost, despite every reason to stay invisible, she was still Ghost. Still the tactical coordinator who couldn't stand by while operations failed. Still the woman who would rather carry the weight of command than the weight of watching people die. 3 years, she whispered. 3 years I've been trying to convince myself I could be normal, that I could just exist without the responsibility, without the missions, without the constant calculations of who lives and who dies. And tonight I saved 50 people, including you. And for the first time in 3 years, I didn't dream about the 8 I lost. I just executed the mission, did what needed to be done, brought everyone home alive. Blake put his hand on her shoulder. Then maybe you've been punishing yourself for something that was never your fault. Maybe those 3 years were about learning to forgive yourself so you could come back when the mission required it. That's very philosophical for a SEAL. We read books too, you know, sometimes. She laughed. Actual laughter. Brief, but real. The moment broke when Captain Iris Morgan approached, medical tablet in hand. Colonel Matthews, all wounded or stable. 12 injuries ranging from gunshot wounds to shrapnel. None life-threatening thanks to your rapid extraction. You saved lives tonight. Just did my job, Captain. Your job was making coffee, according to your file. This was significantly above and beyond. Morgan paused. I also wanted to apologize. I should have pushed harder for Colonel Reynolds to listen to you. I saw you knew something, saw the competence, but I didn't advocate strongly enough. Willow shook her head. You spoke up when others didn't. That's more than most people manage. Don't apologize for other people's failures. Morgan nodded gratefully and returned to her patients. The war room was slowly returning to normal operations. The crisis had passed. The adrenaline was fading. People were starting to process what had happened, starting to understand that the quiet logistics clerk had actually been a legendary tactical coordinator hiding in plain sight. And they were starting to ask questions. Sergeant Hazel Bennett approached with Lieutenant Ryan Parker, both officers who'd witnessed the entire transformation. Colonel, Hazel said formally, Lieutenant Parker and I were wondering if you'd be willing to teach us, to share what you know about tactical coordination. Willow blinked. Teach you? You just executed what might be the most brilliant tactical extraction I've ever witnessed, Ryan said, voice carrying genuine admiration. You saw solutions no one else could see, made connections others missed, and you did it while being actively dismissed and mocked. That's something worth learning. I'm not a teacher. With respect, ma'am, you are. You just taught this entire war room a lesson about ego, competence, and the cost of assumptions. Seems like you could teach us a lot more if you were willing. Willow looked at these 2 young officers, both competent, both hungry to learn, both representing the next generation of military leadership that could prevent future catastrophes. Maybe, she said carefully, if I stay. Will you? Hazel asked. Stay? The question hung in the air. Willow felt the weight of decision pressing down. Stay safe, teach, build a quiet legacy, or return to operational status, hunt traitors, risk everything again. Her secure phone vibrated. Another message, 48 hours remaining, decision required. I don't know yet, she finally said, but even as the words left her mouth, she felt the decision crystallizing, felt Ghost emerging from 3 years of hibernation, felt the weight of command settling back onto her shoulders, not as a burden this time, but as purpose. The consequences of tonight's events were only beginning to unfold. Within 24 hours, the base was transformed. Not physically, but culturally. The story of Ghost had spread through every unit, every mess hall, every barracks. The logistics clerk who was actually a legendary coordinator. The woman dismissed and mocked who saved 50 lives through pure tactical genius. Colonel Carter Reynolds was the first to face consequences. He appeared at Willow's temporary quarters at 0700 hours, uniform crisp, shoulders back, but eyes carrying the weight of near-catastrophic failure. Colonel Matthews, he said formally, may I have a moment? Come in, Colonel. Reynolds entered, standing at attention. Ma'am, I've submitted paperwork for reassignment, not resignation. As you suggested, learning is more valuable than quitting. But I'm requesting transfer to a training command position where my experience can be useful and my ego can't be fatal. Willow studied him. 48 hours ago, this man had physically grabbed her arm, had dismissed her expertise, had nearly gotten 50 people killed through arrogance. "Why training command?" she asked. "Because I need to teach the next generation not to make my mistakes. Need to emphasize that competence doesn't announce itself, that real expertise is often quiet, that the most dangerous assumption in military operations is thinking you already know everything." He met her eyes. "You taught me that lesson, ma'am. Cost you your anonymity. Nearly cost 50 men their lives. I owe it to them, and to you, to make sure other officers learn it without such high stakes." "Good answer, Colonel. Request approved. I'll write a recommendation." "You'd recommend me? After what I did?" "You made mistakes, but you're learning from them. That's all anyone can ask." She paused. "Just remember this feeling, this shame, this recognition of failure. Hold on to it. Use it. Make sure every officer you train understands that pride kills and humility saves." "Yes, ma'am. Every day. I promise." After he left, Major Bradley Foster arrived. The weapons specialist who'd challenged her knowledge, who'd called her skill beginner's luck. "Colonel, I'm requesting transfer to a weapons development position, away from tactical command." His voice was quiet, subdued. "I'm good with weapons systems, technical specifications, engineering. But last night proved I'm not qualified for tactical decision-making. I let assumptions about gender and rank override evidence of competence. That's disqualifying. One mistake doesn't disqualify you, Major. It does when that mistake nearly killed 50 people." He looked at her directly. "Ma'am, I've spent 22 years in the military. I thought I understood tactical operations. Thought I could evaluate talent. Last night proved I was wrong about fundamental things. If I can't recognize expertise when it's standing right in front of me, offering solutions, trying to help, then I have no business making life or death decisions." Willow recognized genuine self-awareness, the kind that led to growth. "Then take the transfer, but stay connected to tactical planning, review operations, provide weapons analysis. Your expertise is valuable, just needs to be applied correctly." "Thank you, ma'am. I'll do that." Captain Ethan Crawford was different. He didn't apologize directly, didn't request transfer. But Willow noticed changes. He started listening more in briefings, started asking questions instead of making assumptions, started treating junior personnel with visible respect. Sometimes growth was loud, sometimes it was quiet, both mattered. Lieutenant Mason Brooks sent a case of aged whiskey to her quarters with a handwritten note. "To the best coordinator I've ever seen in action, thank you for not letting my stupidity kill 50 people. Enrolling in advanced tactical planning courses, trying to be better, trying to be worthy of the second chance you gave us all." The bottle remained unopened, but the note went into her personal file, evidence that people could change, could grow, could become better versions of themselves. Can you believe what just happened? Drop a comment if you saw that coming, because the officers in that room definitely didn't. But here's the thing, we're only halfway through this story. What's about to be revealed will change everything. Keep watching. The best part is still ahead. Sergeant First Class Connor Walsh personally reorganized the entire armory, cleaned every weapon, updated inventory systems, left everything in perfect military order with a note for Willow. "Learned from the best. We'll never judge by appearance again. Thank you for showing us what real expertise looks like. The armory is ready for inspection whenever you have time." Master Sergeant Raymond Hayes requested a private meeting. They sat in his workshop, surrounded by disassembled weapons and technical manuals. "Colonel, I need your help," Hayes said bluntly. "You field-stripped that M240 faster than I've ever seen. 42 seconds. That's competition-level speed, which means my training standards are too low. I'm teaching soldiers weapon maintenance, but I'm not teaching them mastery. Will you review our protocols? Help me raise standards?" Willow spent 6 hours with him, reviewing procedures, updating standards, incorporating techniques she'd learned from dozens of operations across 3 continents. Hayes implemented every suggestion immediately. "Why didn't anyone teach me this before?" he asked at one point. "Because most people don't need mastery, they need competence. But when you're training people whose lives depend on their weapons functioning under extreme stress, competence isn't enough. You need mastery. Muscle memory so deep that you can field strip in darkness, under fire, with hands shaking from adrenaline. Like you can, like I had to learn, the hard way, in places where failure meant death." Hayes was quiet for a moment. Then, Thank you for sharing this, ma'am. I'll make sure every soldier I train reaches mastery level, not just competence. The personal ripples spread wider than individual apologies. The entire command structure began shifting. Warrant Officer Dylan Sterling requested a formal meeting in a secure briefing room. I was on the intelligence fusion cell for Neptune Spear, Dylan said without preamble. Never met you directly, but I remember the operational briefings, the precision, the contingency planning, the absolute confidence that success was the only option. He smiled slightly. I remember thinking whoever Ghost was, they must be the most intimidating person in JSOC. Someone huge, loud, dominating. Never imagined it was a 23-year-old woman who barely cleared 5'4". Size doesn't matter in tactical coordination, Willow said. Only results. Clearly, I've never seen anyone coordinate like you did. Simultaneous operations, real-time adjustment, psychological warfare, unconventional routes, all while being actively opposed by your supposed command structure. That wasn't just skill. That was genius-level operational thinking. It's pattern recognition and experience. No, Dylan said firmly. It's not. I've worked with a lot of coordinators. Most are competent. Some are good. A handful are excellent. And then there's you, operating on a completely different level. Like comparing a pocket calculator to a quantum computer. Willow felt uncomfortable with the praise. Is there a point to this conversation, Dylan? Yeah. If you decide to go back to JSOC, if you take whatever mission they're offering, I want in. I want to work with you again. Be part of whatever operation you're coordinating. Learn from you. You don't even know what the mission is. Doesn't matter. If you're running it, it'll be successful. That's all I need to know. She studied him. 46 years old, 20-plus years of service, proven capabilities during Neptune Spear, loyal, competent, exactly the kind of person she'd want on a sensitive operation, hunting a traitor. I'll think about it, she said. But she'd already decided. If she went operational, Dylan came with her. Some decisions were obvious. For service members like these SEALs trapped in hostile territory, comprehensive life insurance and financial planning aren't optional. They're essential. Specialized military financial services offer coverage that standard policies don't, including combat zone protection, survivor benefits, and investment portfolios designed for deployment cycles. These financial safety nets ensure that whether you're coordinating operations from a TOC or executing missions on the ground, your family's future is secure no matter what happens in the field. The professional impacts extended beyond individuals. General Blackwood called a base-wide assembly 3 days after the extraction. Every available personnel gathered in the main briefing hangar. More than 200 people, all ranks, all specialties. Blackwood stood at the podium, Willow beside him in a fresh uniform with her actual rank insignia now visible, Colonel's eagles on her collar, campaign ribbons on her chest, including the Joint Service Commendation Medal and the Defense Meritorious Service Medal. The visual transformation from nobody to somebody was complete and undeniable. 3 nights ago, Blackwood began, his voice carrying across the assembled personnel, 50 Navy SEALs faced certain death. Enemy forces had them surrounded, outgunned, outpositioned. Every conventional extraction plan failed, casualties mounted, and the officers coordinating the response couldn't find a solution. The assembled personnel listened in absolute silence. You could hear ventilation systems humming, boot leather creaking, breathing, nothing else. Then Lieutenant Willow Matthews, who most of you knew as a logistics clerk, stepped forward with a plan. She was dismissed, mocked, told to make coffee, physically grabbed and removed from the Tactical Operations Center. But when her uniform tore and revealed who she really was, Colonel Willow Matthews, the coordinator of Operation Neptune Spear, 47 successful, high-value target missions, 0 friendly casualties under her command, everything changed. Blackwood paused, letting the statistics sink in. 47 missions, 0 casualties, the best record in Joint Special Operations Command history. Colonel Matthews extracted all 50 SEALs with 0 additional casualties. She did this while being actively opposed by senior officers. She did this despite being treated like an incompetent child. She did this because she understood that saving lives mattered more than protecting her anonymity or her ego. He turned to face Willow. "Colonel, would you like to address the base?" Willow hadn't prepared remarks, hadn't expected this public recognition, but she stepped to the microphone anyway because the message mattered more than her comfort. 200 faces looking at her, waiting, judging, evaluating. 3 years ago, she said quietly, her voice amplified across the hangar, I lost 8 Rangers, good people, skilled soldiers. They died because Pentagon leadership overruled my tactical assessment and ordered them into a situation I knew was suicide. I couldn't stop it, couldn't save them. And afterwards, I couldn't carry that weight anymore. So I disappeared, became nobody. Tried to convince myself I could live without the responsibility of command. Silence, complete attention. Even the ventilation system seemed quieter. But 3 nights ago, I watched 50 more people heading toward the same fate. And I realized something important. Hiding from responsibility doesn't make it go away. It just means someone less capable carries it. Someone who might not see the solutions. Someone who might lose people who didn't need to die. She looked across the assembled faces. Young officers, experienced NCOs, support personnel, all of them part of the military machine that succeeded or failed based on decisions made in rooms like the TOC. So, here's what I learned, and what I hope you learn. Real expertise doesn't need to announce itself. Real competence is often quiet. And the most dangerous thing any of us can do is assume we already know who's capable and who's not, based on their appearance, rank, gender, or job title. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. Colonel Reynolds assumed I was incompetent because I was young, female, and working a desk job. He was wrong, catastrophically wrong. And 50 people almost died because of his assumptions combined with his unwillingness to listen to evidence that contradicted his beliefs. Don't be Colonel Reynolds. Listen, evaluate, judge based on capability, not prejudice, judge based on results, not expectations. The briefing hangar erupted in applause, not polite, not perfunctory. Real applause from people who understood the lesson, because they'd either witnessed the near disaster or heard about it from those who had. Willow stepped back from the microphone. The weight on her shoulders felt different now. Not lighter exactly, but distributed better, shared among people who understood what was at stake. Blackwood announced new policies effective immediately. All tactical suggestions would be evaluated on merit regardless of source. Junior personnel were encouraged to speak up if they saw problems. Command structure remained important for operational efficiency, but not at the cost of mission success. The military was updating its approach to expertise and leadership. Institutional change, slow, incomplete, but real and measurable. The community transformation was visible in small ways over the following weeks. Personnel who'd witnessed Willow's coordination started approaching problems differently. More questions, less assumption, greater attention to quiet expertise regardless of where it came from. Sergeant Hazel Bennett became something of a protege. She shadowed Willow whenever possible, absorbing everything about tactical thinking. I want to be like you, Hazel said one evening as they reviewed terrain maps together. Not ghost exactly, but someone who sees solutions others miss, someone who can save lives through pure operational thinking. Then stop looking for the obvious answers, Willow advised. The best solutions are usually unconventional, uncomfortable. They require thinking 3 steps ahead and 2 steps sideways. Train your mind to see patterns others ignore. Study history. Learn from failures. Understand that every tactical situation has 17 possible solutions, but only 1 or 2 that minimize casualties. Lieutenant Ryan Parker started a study group focused on historical tactical operations. He invited Willow to speak about Neptune's spear, the parts that weren't classified. She talked for nearly 3 hours about planning contingencies, coordinating multiple assets, the importance of having backup plans for your backup plans, and the discipline required to execute whichever plan became necessary based on changing battlefield conditions. 47 officers attended. They took notes like graduate students, asked questions that showed genuine intellectual engagement. This wasn't hero worship. This was professional development from someone who'd achieved what they aspired to achieve. The cultural ripples spread. Base efficiency improved measurably. Communication between units improved. The hierarchical rigidity that had nearly killed 50 people began softening into collaborative problem-solving. Change was happening, real change, the kind that prevented future catastrophes. 3 weeks after the extraction, Willow stood in front of a classroom, teaching advanced tactical coordination to 12 carefully selected officers. The class met 3 times per week, 2 hours per session, intensive, demanding, exactly what they needed. Coordination isn't about control, she explained, moving terrain maps around a tactical table like chess pieces. It's about synthesis, taking multiple moving pieces, ground forces, air support, intelligence feeds, logistics constraints, enemy capabilities, weather patterns, political considerations, and creating a coherent operational picture that allows mission success. Lieutenant Lily Chen, a young officer fresh from West Point with top marks in strategic studies, raised her hand. Colonel, how do you handle information overload? When you're tracking 6 simultaneous operations across multiple time zones, how do you prioritize what matters most? Practice and pattern recognition, Willow said. You train until certain analyses become automatic. Ammunition burn rates, terrain evaluation, enemy capability assessment, weather impact calculations. When those calculations run in the background of your mind, your conscious attention is free to handle the unique variables that make each operation different, but it takes thousands of hours of deliberate practice. How many hours did it take you? Ryan Parker asked. Willow considered the question seriously. I started tactical training at 20, coordinated my first real operation at 22, Neptune Spear at 23. So, roughly 8 to 10,000 hours of study and practice before I reached what I'd consider peak capability. And I'm still learning, still finding better ways to synthesize information, still discovering patterns I missed before. So there's hope for us, Hazel joked. There's always hope, as long as you are willing to put in the work and learn from every operation, successful or failed. The class continued. Willow guided them through a simulated operation. Fictional SEAL team pinned down by numerically superior forces, multiple enemy positions, limited extraction resources, political constraints on certain weapon systems. She watched them struggle, make mistakes, learn from immediate feedback. This was good work, important work. Training the next generation meant fewer catastrophes, fewer dead who didn't need to die, fewer names to carry. After class ended, Blake visited. He'd extended his stay at FOB Viper, officially for extended debriefing, but really to spend time with his sister. They sat outside the Tactical Operations Center, watching the Afghan sunset paint the mountains in shades of orange and gold. You're good at this, Blake observed. Teaching. It's different from coordinating live operations. But important. Maybe more important in the long run. One good coordinator saves 50 people, but training 10 good coordinators? That could save thousands over the next decade. Willow hadn't thought about it that way. The multiplicative effect of education. Maybe. So, what about the Kabul mission? The encrypted message? You never gave them an answer. I know. Willow, I'm thinking about it, okay? It's not a simple decision. There are factors to consider, risks to evaluate. Blake was quiet for a long moment, watching the sun disappear behind distant peaks. Then, you saved my life 3 nights ago. You saved 49 other lives. You did it while being mocked, dismissed, and physically manhandled, and you still executed a perfect operation with 0 additional casualties. Do you know what that tells me? What? That you're not meant to hide. You're not meant to be nobody. You're Ghost, the person who sees solutions no one else can see, the coordinator who brings everyone home alive. And right now, somewhere in Kabul, there's a mole selling secrets that are getting people killed. They need you, Willow. The mission needs you. The people who will die without your expertise need you. I needed 3 years away from the mission, away from the responsibility, away from the weight. And you took them. You healed as much as you could heal. You learned to forgive yourself for something that was never your fault. Now it's time to come back. Not because you have to, because you're ready. She wanted to argue, wanted to say she wasn't healed, wasn't ready, wasn't capable of carrying that weight again without breaking. But watching the sunset over mountains where she'd just saved 50 lives, teaching officers who would save hundreds more, feeling the purpose that came from using her skills for meaningful work. Blake was right. She'd been ready for weeks. She just hadn't admitted it. Her secure phone rang. Not a message this time, an actual call. She glanced at the screen. Martha Andrews, her former mentor. Colonel, retired. The woman who had recruited her into JSOC at age 20 and taught her everything about tactical coordination. Willow answered. Colonel Andrews? Willow, I heard about your extraction operation. Absolutely brilliant work. The whole intelligence community is talking about it. Ghost rises from retirement to pull off an impossible mission. Very dramatic. Very you. I didn't plan it to be dramatic. The best operations never are. They're just necessary, and you make them look easy. Martha's voice carried warmth and pride. Listen, I'm calling about something specific. The Secretary of Defense wants to discuss Operation Neptune Spear. They're considering a documentary, declassifying certain operational details. And they want your involvement, want you to be interviewed, want to honor your coordination. Willow's stomach clenched. A documentary about Neptune Spear, with my name attached? About the Bin Laden raid? Yes. They want to honor the operation, the planners, the executors. Your name would be front and center. Full recognition for your coordination role. The president wants to personally thank you at a White House ceremony. Everything she'd avoided for 3 years. Public recognition, media attention, cameras and questions, and the spotlight she'd worked so hard to escape. Tell them no, Willow said immediately. Willow, I said no. Ghost stays ghost. I didn't coordinate Neptune Spear for recognition or medals or White House ceremonies. I did it because it needed to be done. The SEALs who executed the mission deserve the credit, not me. I just made sure they had a plan that would work. Martha sighed. I figured you'd say that, but I had to ask. They're quite persistent. The president specifically requested your presence. They'll have to stay persistent and disappointed. I'm not interested in being a public figure. That's not who I am. Fair enough. I'll pass along your refusal. What about the other matter? Kabul, the security breach, the mole in JSOC? Willow glanced at Blake. He was watching her, knowing what she'd decide before she said it, because he knew her too well. Tell them I'm in, she said quietly. Ghost is operational. Send me the briefing files. I'll coordinate from here until they need me physically present in Kabul. And I'm bringing Dylan Sterling. He worked Neptune Spear intelligence. If the mole was on that team, Dylan might recognize patterns I miss. You're sure? You don't have to do this, Willow. You've earned the right to stay retired. Yeah, I do have to do this. People are dying because someone's selling secrets. Someone who betrayed every principle we fought for. I can stop that. So I will. Okay then. Welcome back, Ghost. We've missed you. I've missed you. The call ended. Willow sat in silence, processing what she'd just committed to. A hunt for a traitor who knew her methods. A mission to Kabul, where danger came from enemies and supposed allies equally. A return to the world she'd abandoned 3 years ago. Blake put his hand on her shoulder. You made the right choice. How do you know? Because you're not running anymore. You're moving toward the mission instead of away from it. That's always the right choice for people like us. People like us. Warriors. Protectors. The ones who carried the weight so others didn't have to. When do you leave? Blake asked. Probably within a week. They'll need time to set up security protocols, establish cover identity, coordinate with Kabul assets, and brief me on current intelligence about the mole's activities. Be careful. Hunting a mole is different from coordinating combat operations. The enemy knows your capabilities, knows your patterns, knows you're coming. They'll be ready. I know. But you're going anyway. Yeah, because someone has to, and I'm the best chance of success. Blake smiled. That's my little sister, brave to the point of recklessness. Learn from the best. They sat together as darkness settled over Phobe Viper. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new missions, new risks, but tonight they had this moment. Brother and sister, both warriors, both understanding the cost and choosing to pay it anyway. Okay, pause for just a second. If you're not subscribed yet, now's the time, because what's coming next is the moment everyone's been waiting for. This is where everything clicks into place. Don't scroll away. You've come this far. Stay with me. The extraction of 50 SEALs created ripples that extended far beyond Phobe Viper. Within 72 hours, military news networks carried the story. Not Willow's name, that remained classified, but the operation itself. The impossible extraction, the zero casualties, the brilliant coordination that turned certain defeat into flawless victory. Other bases took notice. Other commanders requested briefings. The tactical plan Willow executed became required study material at Fort Benning, Quantico, and the Naval Postgraduate School, not attributed to her by name, just labeled Kandahar Extraction, Study Case 714. 714, Task Force 714, Ghost's unit designation. A subtle acknowledgement for those who knew. Reynolds, now at his training command position, used the operation as his primary teaching example. This is what happens when ego overrides tactical assessment, he told his students. This is what happens when you dismiss expertise based on prejudice. This is what nearly cost 50 lives because I was too proud to listen to someone who knew better than me. He never named Willow, kept her anonymous per her request, but every officer he trained learned the lesson. Competence doesn't announce itself, and the most dangerous assumption is thinking you already know everything. Foster, in his weapons development role, incorporated Willow's feedback into new training protocols. Weapon handling speed increased across all infantry units. Maintenance standards rose, reliability improved, lives saved through better equipment management. Crawford quietly became the base's best listener. Junior officers noticed, started approaching him with concerns they'd previously kept silent. Problems got solved earlier. Efficiency improved. Culture shifted from top-down command to collaborative problem-solving. The institutional changes spread like ripples in a pond. Slow, gradual, but measurable. Willow's expertise didn't come from natural talent alone. It came from elite tactical coordinator training programs that only a handful of people ever complete. Advanced military education platforms now offer specialized courses in joint operations planning, multi-domain warfare, and crisis decision-making. These programs combine classified case studies, real-world simulations, and mentorship from veterans who have coordinated actual high-value missions. For military personnel looking to advance into strategic roles, this level of training is what separates good officers from legendary ones. General Blackwood established a permanent tactical coordination training program at FOB Viper with Willow as founding director. Build the next generation, he told her. Create coordinators who think like you do. See what you see. Save lives the way you save lives. She accepted on the condition that the program remained small. 12 students maximum per cycle. Intensive 18-month curriculum. Only the most promising candidates accepted. Quality over quantity. I'd rather train 12 excellent coordinators than 100 mediocre ones, she explained. Mediocre coordinators get people killed. Excellent ones bring them home alive. The first class began immediately. Hazel Bennett, Ryan Parker, Lily Chen. 9 others carefully selected based on aptitude, dedication, and proven judgment under pressure. They moved into dedicated facilities, studied historical operations, ran simulations, learned from Ghost herself. This isn't just about tactical planning, Willow told them on day 1. It's about understanding human psychology, enemy psychology, your own team's capabilities and limitations, political constraints, resource management, weather patterns, cultural factors. Everything connects, everything matters. Miss one variable and people die. They absorbed it all, hungry, dedicated, understanding they were receiving training that could save thousands of lives over their careers. But even as Willow built this legacy, even as she trained the next generation, even as she created institutional change that would outlast her, the encrypted phone kept vibrating. 24 hours remaining, 12 hours remaining, 6 hours remaining. The Kabul mission waited, the mole waited, the hunt waited. On her final evening at FOB Viper, before deployment, Willow stood alone in the war room where everything had changed. The tactical displays showed routine operations, no crisis, no desperate extractions, just normal military activity. She touched the spot where her sleeve had torn, where the tattoo had been exposed, where Ghost had been revealed to people who thought she was nobody. Thinking about staying? Dylan Sterling's voice came from behind her. She turned. He stood in the doorway, deployment bag already packed, ready to follow her into whatever came next. Thinking about what I'm leaving behind, she admitted. The students, the program, the safe, important work. You can come back to it, after Kabul, after we find the mole, after we stop whoever's selling secrets. If we survive Kabul, we will, because you are coordinating, and you don't fail. I failed 8 Rangers. No. Pentagon Brass failed 8 Rangers. You gave them the best plan. They overruled it. That's on them, not you. She'd heard this before, from Blake, from Blackwood, from her own therapist during those early retirement months. Everyone said the same thing. Not your fault, but 8 Rangers were still dead. Come on, Dylan said gently. Transport leaves in 30 minutes. Time to go hunt some traitors. They walked out of the war room together. Willow took one last look at the tactical displays, at the space where she'd proven who she was, where she'd saved 50 lives, where she'd begun rebuilding herself. Then she closed the door and moved forward. The flight to Kabul took 18 hours, with stops for refueling and security protocols. Willow spent the time reviewing classified files about the mole, financial transactions, suspicious communications, operations that had been compromised, pattern analysis suggesting someone with high-level access was systematically selling JSOC secrets. The evidence pointed to someone from Neptune's Spear, someone who had been there, someone who knew exactly what kind of operational intelligence was most valuable, someone Willow had trusted. They landed at Bagram Airfield under cover of darkness. No ceremony, no official greeting, just a secure vehicle and a drive to an undisclosed facility where the real work would begin. The briefing room held 4 people when Willow arrived. She recognized 3 immediately. Commander Jack Morrison, SEAL Team 6, Neptune Spear Assault Leader, Captain Sarah Vega. Intelligence Officer, Neptune Spear Planning Cell, Master Chief Felix Torres, Senior Enlisted, Neptune Spear Ground Coordinator. The 4th person was unknown, civilian clothes, quiet presence, CIA probably. Ghost, Morrison said warmly. Been a long time. Jack, good to see you. Heard about your Phobie Viper extraction. Brilliant work, classic Ghost coordination. Just did the job. 50 people home safe with 0 additional casualties. That's more than just doing the job. That's perfection under impossible circumstances. The unknown civilian spoke. Colonel Matthews, I'm Bennett, CIA Special Activities Division. I've been investigating the security breach for 6 months. We've confirmed that someone with Neptune Spear access has been selling operational data, high-value intelligence, the kind that gets people killed. How many people? Willow asked bluntly. Confirmed? 17 operators across 4 countries. Suspected? Possibly triple that. The mole's information has been extremely valuable to hostile forces. 17 dead, because someone she'd trusted had sold them out. What's the evidence pointing to Neptune Spear specifically? Dylan asked. The intelligence being sold includes operational details that were never written down, never formally documented. Only 12 people knew certain specifics about the mission profile. Bennett pulled up a chart. We've narrowed it to 5 possible suspects, all Neptune Spear team members, all with financial irregularities, all with access to classified systems. The 5 faces appeared on screen. Willow knew them all, had worked with them all, had trusted them all with the most sensitive operation of the century, and one of them had betrayed everything. Your mission, Bennett continued, is to identify which one, gather evidence, build a prosecutable case, and do it quietly before they realize we're investigating. Why me? Willow asked. Why not internal JSOC investigators? Because you know these people better than anyone. You coordinated them. You understand their patterns, their capabilities, their tells. If anyone can identify the traitor, it's Ghost. Willow studied the 5 faces. 5 people who had executed the most significant military operation of their generation. 5 people she'd trusted completely. One of them had blood on their hands. 17 deaths confirmed, possibly 50 or more suspected. I'll need full access to financial records, communication logs, and operational debriefing transcripts, she said. I'll need to interview each suspect without them knowing they're under investigation. And I'll need Dylan with me at all times. He spots patterns I miss. Done. You have complete operational authority. Whatever you need, it's yours. Willow looked at the 5 faces again, memorizing details, looking for the crack in the facade, the tell that would reveal betrayal. How long do I have? She asked. The mole knows we're investigating. They're getting nervous. We estimate 72 hours before they either run or go to ground so deep we'll never find them. You have 3 days, Colonel, 3 days to find a traitor who spent 3 years covering their tracks. 3 days, 72 hours, 4,320 minutes to identify someone who knew her methods and would be actively working to deceive her. Then we'd better get started, Willow said. The hunt began. For 71 hours, Willow barely slept. She reviewed financial records, communication patterns, operational debriefings. She interviewed all 5 suspects under false pretenses. Routine Neptune Spear Anniversary Documentation was the cover story. She watched their body language, listened to their word choices, analyzed their stress responses. Dylan ran parallel analysis, cross-referencing timeline data with suspicious transactions, building the circumstantial case that would support whatever Willow's intuition identified. By hour 68, they had it. Not proof, not yet, but certainty. The mole wasn't who Willow expected, wasn't the obvious suspect with suspicious finances, wasn't the one with communication anomalies. It was the one who'd been too helpful, too eager to assist with the investigation, too quick to point fingers at others. Captain Sarah Vega, intelligence officer, the person who had helped plan Neptune's spear. Who'd been in every briefing, who knew every detail, who had access to everything, and who had a sister with terminal cancer requiring experimental treatment that cost $300,000. Treatment not covered by insurance. Treatment that justified selling secrets to save family. It's her, Willow told Bennett. Sarah Vega is your mole. You're certain? 98%. Her interview responses showed micro-expressions consistent with deception. Her financial records show unexplained gaps exactly matching the timeline of compromised operations. And her recent communication patterns indicate she's preparing to run. We have maybe 6 hours before she disappears. That's not enough for prosecution. Then we set a trap. Feed her false intelligence about a high-value operation. Something she can't resist selling. We track the transaction, identify her handler, catch her in the act. Bennett considered. Risky. If she suspects, she won't, because I'm going to personally brief her on the fake operation. Going to trust her the way I trusted her 3 years ago. Going to give her every opportunity to betray us one more time. And when she does, we'll have her. The trap was set within 2 hours. False intelligence about a high-value target, fake operational plans, everything designed to be irresistible to someone selling secrets. Willow briefed Sarah personally, watched her eyes light up, watched her ask exactly the right questions to gather exactly the information that would be most valuable, watched her friend become a confirmed traitor. 6 hours later, Sarah Vega was arrested, attempting to pass classified material to a foreign intelligence asset. Caught red-handed. Indisputable evidence. 17 confirmed deaths laid at her feet, possibly many more. Why? Willow asked when she confronted Sarah in the holding cell. You were one of us. You believed in the mission. Why betray everything? Sarah looked at her with exhausted eyes. My sister was dying. Experimental treatment was her only chance. $300,000. Insurance wouldn't cover it. I couldn't let her die. So I sold information I thought wouldn't hurt anyone. Just tactical analysis, historical data, nothing current. 17 operators are dead because of your harmless information. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know they'd use it that way. You thought you could betray your country and your brothers and sisters in arms without consequences. You were wrong. Sarah had no response, just tears and broken justification. Willow walked away. Mission accomplished, traitor identified, security breach closed, 17 deaths accounted for, but no satisfaction, just exhaustion and grief for the betrayal of someone she'd once trusted. That ending, though, did you catch that final message? If you want to know what happens next in Ghost's story, and whether she finally finds peace, check out the next video in this series. But before you go, hit that like button if this story gave you chills, and drop a comment telling me, would you have been able to forgive Sarah's betrayal, or was justice the only option? Willow returned to Phobe Viper 4 weeks later. The students were progressing well. Hazel had coordinated her first successful simulated operation. Ryan showed promise as a strategic thinker. The program was working. Blake visited again. They sat in their usual spot, watching another Afghan sunset. You found the mole, he said. It wasn't a question. Yeah, someone we both knew, someone from Neptune's spear. Who? Sarah Vega. Blake closed his eyes. Sarah, God, I can't believe. Why? Her sister was dying, needed expensive treatment. Sarah sold secrets to pay for it, didn't think anyone would get hurt, was catastrophically wrong. That's tragic, for everyone. Yeah. They sat in silence, processing, grieving, understanding that good people could make terrible choices for understandable reasons, and that understanding didn't erase consequences. So, what now? Blake finally asked. Now, I train the next generation. Make sure they're better than we were. Make sure fewer people have to make Sarah's choice because the system supports them better. Make sure fewer operations get compromised because security protocols are stronger. That's good work. It's necessary work. Willow's secure phone vibrated one final time. She looked at the screen. Unknown encrypted number. Same security protocols as before. She answered. This is Ghost. Colonel Matthews? The voice was filtered. Male. Authority. We have a situation developing. Hostage rescue. American personnel trapped in hostile territory. Complexity exceeds normal coordination capabilities. We need someone who can see 8 moves ahead and coordinate 15 simultaneous operations across 5 countries. That's a very big ask. You coordinated Neptune's spear. You found the JSOC mole. You extracted 50 SEALs under impossible conditions. This is what you do. This is who you are. And we need Ghost operational for one more mission. Willow looked at Blake, at the sunset, at the base where she'd rebuilt herself, at the students who needed her, at the quiet life she could choose. Then she looked at the phone. Send me the briefing files, she said. I'll review and confirm within 24 hours. Thank you, Colonel. We knew we could count on you. The call ended. Blake smiled. You're never really going to retire, are you? Probably not. Turns out I'm not very good at being nobody. No, you're not. You're Ghost, and the world needs Ghost. The world needs a lot of things. It needs you, Willow, doing what only you can do, saving lives nobody else can save, being the tactical coordinator who never fails. She leaned against her brother's shoulder, exhausted, purposeful, understanding finally that running from who she was had never been the answer. Accepting who she was had been the answer all along. Real warriors don't advertise, she said quietly. They show up when needed and disappear when the job is done. Is that from a manual? No, it's from experience. 3 years of hiding taught me that disappearing only works if you were never really needed. But people like us, we're always needed. So we show up, we do the job, we carry the weight, and then we rest until the next mission requires us to show up again. That's very philosophical for a tactical coordinator. I learned from the best. They watched the sun disappear behind the mountains. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new missions, new students to train, new operations to coordinate. But tonight, they had this moment, this peace, this understanding that some people were built to carry weight so others didn't have to, and that accepting that burden was its own form of freedom. Ghost was operational. Ghost would always be operational, because the mission never really ended. It just evolved, and the best coordinators evolved with it. In her pocket, the secure phone contained a message she hadn't opened yet. She pulled it out, read the screen. New operation designated, Crimson Phoenix, briefing files attached, authorization level, TSC, review and confirm operational status within 24 hours. This one's bigger than Neptune. This one changes everything. Willow stared at the words. Bigger than Neptune, bigger than the operation that killed bin Laden, bigger than anything she'd coordinated before. She should feel afraid, should feel overwhelmed, should feel the weight crushing her. Instead, she felt ready. Blake, she said quietly, I'm going to need you operational for this next one. What is it? I don't know yet, but it's big, and I'll need my brother watching my back. Blake nodded. Always, little owl. Always. She opened the attachment, started reading the briefing, and her eyes widened, because this wasn't just an operation. This was historical. This was the kind of mission that appeared in textbooks 50 years later. This was the coordination challenge that would define her entire career, and Ghost never walked away from challenges. Time to get to work, she said. The sunset faded, darkness fell, and in that darkness, Ghost began planning the impossible, because some missions require the best, and the best was ready.